Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Ask Nancy, my monthly live stream where I talk about all things leadership, coaching, fear, all the good stuff. If you're watching the replay, welcome. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you could see these all anytime they launch. I'm really excited today because I have with me my dear friend, Steve Cafiero, who happens to be an executive and leadership coach and a super smart guy, but he also happens to be a very cool guy that I've known for years. And we used to be in a band together. But anyway, today we're going to talk about coaching because Steve is a really experienced coach, but he also has a broad range of experience in tech and finance. And he's just software. He's been around doing a lot of different things throughout his career, and coaching is one of the things he does. So he brings a lot of experience and insights specifically for those industries. And he helps clients kind of find their individual and unique strengths and skill sets and helps them develop them. So Steve, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with me today.
Thank you, Nancy. Delighted to be here.
Anything I left out that you want to kind of add to your bio?
I think you hit it all. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So Steve is launching, he's cultivating, I would say, not launching. He's cultivating the coaching side of his business. And I think that something I'd really love to touch on today, Steve, and get your insights on is because we're both coaches, we're both in that space. We bring different kind of experiences to it. But I think an interesting thing to talk about is a differentiation between coaching and advising. So like, what are your thoughts about that in your experience in coaching folks? How does that differ?
That's a very broad question, right? And it's something that there's a ton of misconception about, right? What is coaching? What is mentorship? What is advising? What is therapy? Clearly, I don't go anywhere near the therapy piece of it.
Neither of us do that. Yep. But we touch the fringes though.
Yes, I've often been on the fringe during my life, but be that as it may, between coaching and mentoring is kind of where the distinctions I make. And sometimes I act as a coach, sometimes I act as a mentor, right? The distinctions in my mind are a coach is somebody who is engaged with you for a specific period of time with specific things that you want to accomplish or specific action items or specific areas to improve on. It's typically a professional relationship. A coach has certification, a coach has training, these kinds of things. Whereas a mentor is a long-term relationship, perhaps with somebody you may have known for a long time, or somebody who's senior in your field that has a specific advice set that they can provide. It's a longer term, it's a more informal kind of dialogue relationship over a period of time. Whereas a coach is more laser focused. In my view, coach asks a lot of questions.
Coach asks a lot of questions. Well, that's a good point because I think to build on what you said, coaches also don't really advise. They kind of give you tools and guide you to rise to your to up level yourself, to rise to your potential, but they're not prescriptive per se. They're more like, that Socratic method, like asking a lot of questions, listening actively, and sort of doling out suggestions, ideas, tools that coaching clients can use to rise to their potential. At least that's the way I look at it.
Me too. I mean, my philosophy is all my clients have within them the answers. They have within them the capabilities. They have within them the discipline and the structure that they need to pursue to get to where they want to go. It's up to me or a coach to be, and I'll use the lighthouse metaphor. I mean, I'm partial to the ocean, but I love the lighthouse metaphor. And that is, it's up to me or a coach to be kind of steady, right? Steady in the storm, hearing what's going on, watching what's going on, and just shining the light where it needs to be shined, and making and illuminating certain areas with a series of questions or a particular discussion path that you go down.
Yeah, because lots of times people, I have found in my experience, some clients don't even realize what they one, what they're struggling with, two, how they feel about it, and three, how they're perceived. Right. Just, so on that point, first of all, what excites you the most in a coaching engagement? Like what sparks you the most? What gets you the most excited?
When you get an aha moment, right? You get an aha moment from a client, whether it's on a call like this or in person, when all of a sudden they give you a look like, oh my goodness, I never thought of that before. Or nobody ever asked me that question. Or how did you know? Or something like that.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
I had a client a few weeks ago. This is one of the most wonderful compliments or comments or feedback I've gotten. And it was that you took what I threw out there as a seemingly throwaway, offhanded comment, and you put the thread together and seized on that as a real central theme to what was going on. And you drilled in on it and made me realize that it was more important to me than I was particularly giving it credit for. It was kind of like, right? It's kind of like the think about how you think about things kind of thread of thought, right?
Yeah.
Somebody throw that, I don't really think about that. I don't really do that. That's not me, blah, blah, blah. But as you piece together the conversation and the dialogue and the thread, you can kind of say, well, that might be a little bit more important than you're giving it credit for.
It's like you connect dots a little bit because you're sitting in the coaching chair, right? And you can kind of get the 10,000 foot view. You can connect some dots that people, when they're in their brain, they can't. Right. So that's a great story. That's okay. So let me ask you another question. Sort of the flip side of that. When do you know that somebody isn't the ideal client for you? Because it's as important to know that as it is to know that it's going to be a productive engagement. How do you know when somebody's not? Like, what are some signals for you?
I don't know that you ever 100% know, but you can pretty much guess, right? If you're getting answers, like I have an intake session with anybody that comes to me to coach. I have a get to know you session, a half-hour conversation. And I've been around a while, and I've been in sales and management and a variety of different walks of life, and I kind of can read people okay, right? So if I detect somebody is just throwing out platitudes or, common quotes, or I can tell that they're not really being honest with me or honest with themselves for that matter, then it's probably not a good fit, right? I tend to be very transparent in terms of how I'm thinking and feeling, and I can detect that in people for the most part. And there are folks who I've decided not to work with because I didn't think that they were really going to engage. I didn't think they were going to do the work. I didn't think they were going to be honest. Okay, that's fine, right?
That's fine. That's the thing. It's fine. Like, it's not a rejection of the person. It's not I'm not sure this will be a productive engagement. I'm not sure this will be helpful to you. And I don't want you to waste your time. And as coaches, we don't want to waste our time either. I think it's the smartest thing you can do when it doesn't feel like the right fit. And your point about the platitudes or the sound bites or whatever, if a coaching client is in that discovery call chair because their boss told them they had to be, and they don't really want to be.
Yeah, not so good.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Well, sometimes they'll turn around. Sometimes it'll turn around, but
and that's exactly where I was going to go. And in the organization I'm in right now, there's a very robust coaching practice, and I get a lot of internal clients that are sent my way because they're on a high potential fast track program, right? Yeah. And there are these types of academies for the 28 to 40-year-old where they're doing rotational assignments and they're afforded certain enablement to raise their skill level in a variety of different areas, right? Mm-hmm. And a coaching engagement is part of that. It's part of that program. It's part of that academy that they're in. So they're told, all right, you got to come to these sessions, blah, blah, blah. And you can pick from this bench of coaches to work with.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. So it's kind of a mandatory thing. So some of them come to me through this program and it's like, my mom told me I got to get a coach, right? Or something like that, right? It's kind of like they're being pushed into and a lot of them have misgivings and second thoughts. And they're like, yeah, okay, I'm going to check the box on this. This is going to be whatever. I just got to spend an hour for a month for 6 months and then I'm done, right? And you asked me earlier what fires me up about coaching. It's when you get one of those kind of assignments, if you will, where somebody comes into the engagement and they're kind of like, yeah, check the box. When all of a sudden by session 3, they're like, when can we talk again? Right? That's a real jolt for somebody in doing what we do. Right?
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But it also speaks to your prior question, right? About how do you know you could work with somebody or not? How do you know someone's being honest with you or not?
Right.
Sometimes you don't know and you kind of press on because maybe you can turn a corner with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just.
And sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they have a preconceived notion about what a coaching engagement is going to be.
Yes.
And then after a couple of sessions, they're like, oh, I didn't really realize that this is what we were going to be doing. And so you sometimes have to suppress your own inclination that, this may not work. Give it a little time and see, because if we can collectively as coaches shift that paradigm, change the idea of what coaching really means. Then because I don't know about you, but I have yet to find someone in the C-suite all the way to mid-level, all the way to entry level that doesn't have stuff. They all have stuff.
They're all people.
And they're all people, right? It's the human condition. So if it's stuff that as coaches we can help them with, wow, that's a beautiful thing. If it's stuff that we can't, then we can give guidance about where they might find support for that. But it's a no lose.
Right.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced outside of, finding the right client or paving the way for productive engagement? Like, what are some either tactical, challenges as a coach, or just kind of like more broad? What's hard for you to deal with as a coach?
Well, what's really interesting, and the coaching journey that I've been on has been fascinating. I was fortunate enough to go through a year-long training program where there was a lot of emphasis initially, and it was with people from all over the world, which was absolutely fascinating. People from the West Coast, East Coast, South America, Philippines, everywhere. So it was fascinating to listen to the cultural differences in how people engage, right? But one of the real significant aspects of the training that I've received, and something that I bring forward in my practice, is mindset, right? What's your coaching mindset as you go in? The emphasis on getting into coach space for 15 minutes or a half hour before you engage with a client. Kind of clear your head of everything else, right? Think about your prior conversations. Think about what you want to bring up in terms of summary from the prior session. Maybe jot down some notes on some things you'd like to explore, right? So it's the getting into the coaching mindset. And that gets easier as you go along. But I think it's a really important distinction. And you asked before about coaching versus mentoring. I think that's an important distinction of coaching, is that getting in the right mindset before you engage, right?
Yeah, and prep. I mean, I'm with you. Mentoring, it's not that you don't have to prepare, but it's different. Right. Like whenever I have a coaching engagement, I keep keep notes as you do for every single session, and I review the notes. And when you're speaking with a coaching client and you remind them of something they said 3 sessions ago, and they kind of like, their eyes get big and they're a little bit like, "Ooh, wow, she's okay. Yeah. She's serious. She's really paying attention." It paves the way. It's a springboard for, right? So I agree with you. It's not just the prep. It's that clearing the decks. Okay. Right. We're in this space. It's a safe space. We're honoring the space. Everything can be discussed, and there's no weirdness around that. I think that's a great practice. Yeah. And it makes us as coaches feel more laser focused on our client, and the noise is gone. But I think it makes the coaching client feel really like you're present to them. Yeah.
Another challenge, well put, Nancy. I mean, another challenge is you don't have to you're not there to fix everyone, and you can't fix everything. And I think those of us who engage in this profession and in this discipline, there's a certain empathetic gene and empathetic ability that you have to be able to do this well. Yep. Right. So, you talked about us being in a band together and playing music. If you play music, you feel things a different way, right? If you're a coach, you feel things a different way. And you you have to pull yourself back every now and then, saying, I can't fix everything about this person, right? I can't fix everything about this situation, the work environment, or whatever it is. But I can be the best sounding board I can be. I can be the best person to put the focus where it needs to be. I can be the best, as my good friend Craig, who's a coach as well, often says, an accountability partner. Right. I can help this person be accountable to themselves, to their work, to their family, to their career. So those are some of the challenges, right? It's staying in coach position, always listening well, knowing how much to backtrack around, and understanding you can't fix everybody, but you can have a positive impact on people.
Oh my gosh, I'll take it a step further. I can't fix anybody. I mean, as a coach, I don't fix. It's really like, I approach it like, I will give you some perspective that may raise your awareness around your ability to fix yourself, or to change your experience somehow. But it's like, there's just no fixing, because it's just, as you say, like, I always use this metaphor. I've beaten it to death, but it works. It's like Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz, the ruby slippers. You have the juice right now. It's just a matter of figuring out where to tap into it. And that's what I like to do with people. So a big challenge for me is when coaching clients come and they want to be fixed, because you're not broken. You just have to kind of touch on some of the things that maybe you're unaware of. So 100%. It is a dance we do. And I think it's awesome though. It's so. Can I ask you another question?
Yeah, we have time.
Man, we sure do. When you start a coaching engagement with someone, is there generally a number of sessions within which you feel like you make a difference, or is it so case specific that it could go anywhere from 7 sessions to 70 sessions?
Oh, it's totally case specific. It's totally case specific. I don't think you really have you can get lucky, so to speak, sometimes, in that, like in session 1, you're hitting pay dirt in a lot of areas, or it can take till session 3, right?
Right.
It really,
or session 30.
Or session 30. I mean, it really, and how many times do you start out with a client and says, these are the 3 things I want to work on. Boom, boom, boom. Yep. And then by session 5, what about those 3 things? Well, the first 2, no. It's now
Right.
5, 6, and 7 that we want to work on.
Because you've opened up the gates, it's like, oh, well, we worked on this and that made me think of this, or it's
Exactly.
Amy Sponza somebody just commented, agree, it's not our job to fix them. We help them tap into their own inner voice to find the answer. That's so true, right? And to your point, Amy, and to your point, Steve, when you do that, it's like, oh, then they start thinking of different things or realizing the possibilities that are present to dig into something else. And that
100%.
Is the most fun, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you shine a light on a little dark corner, that scary monster isn't as scary anymore. Right?
For sure. And you were saying that before, like the thing that they kind of dismissively said or just glossed over. And you said, hang on, we're going to pick at that a little bit. We're going to unpack that a little bit. First of all, they're saying, oh, he heard me. And then second, oh, maybe that isn't a toss away. Maybe that's informing some other things that I'm doing. And it's this cool process of pulling the thread until you got a ball of yarn in your lap.
100%.
Yeah. So Steve, in your opinion, like, what do you think are what are you seeing as some of the big challenges that people are trying to navigate that you're helping with as a coach?
So because I do, imposter syndrome jumps out of me, right? And I think it's because I work with so many high potentials, right? They're used to success. Again, this is like the 28 to 30 to 40-year-old, right? They're used to success. They're highly educated. They've probably been moved along pretty quickly, right? And they're in a role or being considered for a role that they're like, I don't know I can't do this.
They're going to figure it out. They're going to finally figure it out that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Somebody is going to discover that I really don't know what I'm doing. And, that's a situation where a term pops into my head all the time. And that is check the facts, right? Check the facts. How did you get where you are?
Yeah.
How many times have you been promoted in the last 3 years or 5 years? 3 times. And who promoted you? Blah, blah, blah. Do you respect them as leaders? Yes. Why do you respect them as leaders? Da, 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 da. And it's like, okay, so what you're telling me is none of those people who promoted you knew what they were doing because they all promoted you and you're a fraud.
Exactly. I know.
It's like, bing, this light goes off.
But there's the flip side of that too. And that is, who told you have to be perfect?
Right.
Who told you that you're being promoted because the expectation is you will never make a mistake or you will never experience a setback? So there's two, right? And sometimes just getting those thoughts out, articulating them with language they're like, wow, I never really thought that's kind of silly. Why would I think that?
Right.
That's exactly imposter syndrome is huge, is everywhere.
Just putting the light on that dark corner. And it's like, and I think, one thing that I think is inherent in this conversation you and I are having is we both have a sense of humor and we both like to laugh. Yeah. And I think that that's really important when used appropriately at the right time in a coaching engagement, right?
Yep.
When you're talking to somebody who feels like it's an imposter syndrome situation and you say something like, okay, so everybody that promoted you so far, they're all knuckleheads. They don't know what they're doing, right? And people inevitably crack up at that. No, that's not what I meant. Right?
When you say it that way, I sound like a dummy.
Right.
But it's just so pervasive. And somebody said to me recently, oh, I think it was a mutual friend of ours. It was a mutual friend of ours in Welton. He said, I just don't get, it's got to be called imposter syndrome. It's like, it's basically self-doubt. We had a little debate about it, which was really fun. And I said, agreed. It's self-doubt. There is a tendency to pathologize everything, to syndromize everything. I just made that word up. And we don't have to do it.
It's very deep.
No, well, you know me, I'm deep. So, but it all comes down to self-doubt, and it all comes down to fear, and whatever we want to call it. It's like we're all in the same boat, this messy human condition. So I think as coaches, you and I just, we kind of we dig that stuff. We because we've experienced it ourselves. I know I have, and I still do all the time. And sticking to the facts, to your point, is not just the facts of how you got to where you are, not just reviewing your own accomplishments, but sticking to the facts in the moment that you're thinking them.
Right.
Like, what do I know for sure? And what is conjecture? What is cognitive bias? What is like me doing all the things that I do? So we have a few minutes before we close. I want to make sure everybody can find you, because you're really good at this, Steve. And you can help people. So I want to make sure they know how to find you. So you're in the middle of constructing your website, I think, for TideShift. So what is your, Yep.
The name of my firm is TideShift Partners. Tide is in the ocean, TideShift Partners. Putting my website together right now. I have a TideShift email address, which is scafiero@tideshiftpartners.com. You can also find me at Cafiero15. That's Cafiero15 @gmail.com. If you send me an email to either one of those locations, addresses, I can put you on my mailing list going forward and keep you updated on, updates to my website and so on.
Do it. And if you can't remember anything Steve just said, email me and I'll get you in touch with him. But what she So anything you want to say before we close out? Any final words of wisdom for our listeners, our audience? Do you have a tagline? Do you have a tagline?
It's actually practical, focused results. That's my tagline.
That's big and bold,
come out of
Steve.
business. I'm a business guy. So I tend to be very practical in my approach. I like to focus on things. I think that's the way we get things done. And I'm results oriented, right? So practical, focused results is the way I build my business.
Yeah, I know that about you. You are in the get stuff done department for sure. Also, though, you're a lot of fun and you're just a good human.
Thank
so if you're needing coaching from a results guy who's a lot of fun, he's your guy.
Thank you, Nancy.
So what are you doing for the what are you doing for the holidays, Steve?
We're hosting. We're fortunate. Ooh. Yeah, we're not big. There's only 5 of us.
Okay, but these family gatherings, target rich environment for coaches.
Oh my goodness.
Are they not?
Oh my goodness. My daughters are in their 20s, launching careers, extending their educations. And one of my daughter's boyfriends, who she's pretty serious with, is he's in the high potential target zone, right? He's one of those kind of guys. He's gotten stuff done his whole life. He's had a significant amount of success. He is outstanding athlete, almost made it in the majors in baseball. And he has the ability to focus, and he has the ability to take coaching. So it's been very rewarding to me to be able to talk to him about his career path and what he's focusing on as well. It's just amazing how
it's a different mindset. You're talking about mindset. It really is a mindset issue. And I mentor young people and I find that you can spot it, that mindset. If it's a growth mindset, if they're open, if they're kind of like sponging it all in and they don't attach a whole lot of meaning, or they don't attach to outcomes per se, they kind of attach more to the journey and to it's growth mindset is really key. And for anyone who has studied Carol Dweck's work or read Carol Dweck's work, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I always like to drop a book recommendation when I think of it. And Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. Read it. It's an outstanding book. All right, we're out of time. Steve Cafiero, good friend. Thank you so much. And exceptional coach. I'm really glad you were here. Thank you for your insights and sharing your time with me. Everyone who's watching, if you're watching live or you're watching the replay, thank you for joining. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can see these posted regularly once a month, or reach out to me at nancy.berger994@gmail.com to get on my mailing list. Thank you again for your attention, your support. We'll see you next month, and have a happy, safe, peaceful holiday season. All the best, everyone. Bye.
Best of all. Thank you.